it's somewhat of a wake-up call. I do think that a lot of people have said a couple of things, and I agree with a lot of takes. First of all, I think that it's important to know what Brock Purdy has done over the first 5 weeks of the season, which was the MVP caliber play that we had seen from the quarterback position, something the 49ers aren't necessarily used to, especially in weeks 4 and weeks 5. The Arizona Cardinals, I thought that game was good. The Dallas Cowboys, I thought that performance was good as well. So when you look at the body of work, I thought Brock Purdy had a really good first 5 weeks. So if you take if you take into account the first 5 weeks in accordance with the bad week 6, you give him the benefit of the doubt. However, I do think that it's important to take in how Brock Purdy played, because you do have to understand the different ways that quarterbacks adjust to different defenses. And the Cleveland Browns were the best defense San Francisco faced all year. I don't think you can discount that. And Purdy was under pressure. He certainly was under pressure, but there was also issues in clean pockets that was the most, not surprising, but the most eye-opening to me. He was only 8 of 15 passing in clean pockets. The interception came on a clean pocket. It's just him missing. He just flat out missed receivers in this game. Again, you give him the benefit of the doubt, but this is one where you keep you keep it in the back of your mind, because dating back to the offseason, my main take on why I didn't think the 49ers would win a Super Bowl in 2023 was because, well, I said it was primarily due to the quarterback play, and I didn't think Brock Purdy would play bad. I thought, though, primarily, I didn't think they were going to be able to win the big game. They could reach the Super Bowl. They could reach the NFC Championship game like they've done in years past. I just don't know if they were going to be able to finish the task, understanding that to get there, you're going to have to go through tough defense after tough defense like you did with the Cleveland Browns. I mean, Philly's got a good defense. You look on the other side, Kansas City's got a solid defense. And there are several solid defenses on the elite teams. Usually elite teams are good both ways. And so that's something you do have to keep into mind. The one thing I'll say, I'm going to give Brock the benefit of the doubt. You do want to see how does he respond. You saw it very briefly at the end of the game. He still led, a potential game-winning drive prior to the missed field goal, which is a good sign. But you want to see him build with a better performance so that you can see some more consistency and see him able to bounce back from a tough moment.
I definitely agree. I was wondering, do you think that the rain might have had a bigger deal to do with his performance than we kind of thought? I was listening to something and realized that the other time that we've seen Brock Purdy look like human and kind of struggle was actually last year in the playoffs against the Seahawks in that first quarter when it was raining. I know Brock Purdy does have some physical limitations. I think his hand size is in the 24th percentile of all quarterbacks, meaning that like 76% of quarterbacks have larger hands than him. So maybe my hypothesis is like, even on the clean pockets, he might have, by that point, like at the end of the game when he threw the interception, maybe he was anticipating pressure. So it could be a little bit mental. But also, I wonder if there was that physical aspect of just dealing with the wet footballs. Do you think that that is a concern? Because the playoffs are going to be in the winter. Weather is going to be a factor where you're talking about having a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Eventually, you're going to have to play a good defense. Eventually, you're going to have to play in poor weather.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think you can make an argument, but I don't think the weather was as influential as just the play being flat out. He was inaccurate. It's not like he made terrible decisions. He was just inaccurate with his ball placement. A lot of throws behind receivers, some throws overthrowing receivers. The timing seemed off at times. You can attribute it to the weather, and I think the weather aspect, I think you have to attribute it more to his hand size, because the issue when it comes to the quarterback position in smaller hands is being able to grip the football in strange weather scenarios. I also didn't think it was raining that hard, so I'm not going to put a big emphasis on it overall. But again, that's another thing where you have to take into account in bad weather games. You got a quarterback who doesn't have the biggest hands, and I pointed this out on Ryan G. Henley's show the other day. How his hand size is pretty small. I believe it's 9.25 inches, which, like you pointed out, is in the 24th percentile of quarterbacks. I think that's something you have to know, and it's something you got to keep in mind. But overall, I'm not going to attribute the weather too much in this performance. Just overall, thought he just flat out missed receivers.
Okay, I have a follow-up question just because I've been reading some articles and stuff. A lot of people think that maybe the Browns could have written like a book on Brock Purdy. Now, my takeaway is I don't think that people will be able, or other teams will be able to follow the Browns' defensive strategy because they don't have the same personnel that the Browns do. But some teams might, or might not have like as good as the Browns personnel, but might have comparable comparable players at specific positions where they feel more confident playing man coverage. So a lot of people have talked about how man coverage could have been maybe Brock Purdy's kryptonite and really spooked him. Kyle Shanahan and just the Shanahan scheme, like if you're looking at LaFleur, McVay, they've always done a really good job against zone defense. My hypothesis for why so many people in this, or so many quarterbacks within the Shanahan scheme throw insane interceptions to like linebackers, where if you're an audience member watching the game, you're like, how could you throw it there? I think a lot of the Shanahan scheme is training your quarterback to throw to specific spots. And I think in the headset, they used to talk about this with Jared Goff when he was with the Rams, that Sean McVay would actually tell him before the ball snap where to throw the ball. And I think if you look back at Jimmy G, maybe that's possible that he was kind of told, like, there's going to be an open guy here, so I'm throwing to this spot. And he didn't really process after the ball was snapped, hey, whatever Kyle said in my headset is no longer accurate. The defense found out, and now there's going to be a linebacker there. So I was kind of wondering, do you think that maybe that is why Brock Purdy struggled, because he had to wait for the ball to be snapped in order to figure out which receiver would win their matchup? Also, the Browns have had really good secondary play that were able to cover the offensive weapons that weren't injured for the 49ers. So do you think man coverage is a problem? And do you think maybe, I've always given Brock Purdy a lot of credit for like the between the eyes, being able to assess the defense. Do you think maybe he actually struggles with that? Or I don't know if struggle, but doesn't excel as much as we might have anticipated. And him struggling against man coverage could have shown that to the rest of the league.
I think, yeah, that's a complex question, and I think I'll break it down into parts. One, you talk about the Browns personnel. I think the Browns personnel argument's a good argument, right? The Browns don't have similar personnel to the remainder of the league, in that they got a very good front four, but they also have very good corners. They have the best trio of corners in the NFL in Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson, and Greg Newsome, in that they are able to fit the man coverage scheme that Jim Schwartz is putting out there as a defensive coordinator. You also have the four down linemen. I mean, Jordan Elliott and Dalvin Tomlinson are good run defending defensive tackles who were just disrupting all afternoon long against those interior guys. The interior guys had a rough day for the 49ers on that offensive line. I mean, Myles Garrett type of things. Zadarius Smith did, a couple of things as well. And it's the way that they incorporated it. You had a lot of stunts. I saw they attacked that right side of the offensive line with a lot of stunts, which left free rushers coming up over the middle. And obviously, where is Brock Purdy looking to throw? Where is